I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back. Under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States, I'm officially invoking Section 740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. We have other cities that are very bad. New York has a problem. And then you have, of course, Baltimore and Oakland. We don't even mention that anymore. They're so far gone. We're not going to let it happen. We're not going to lose our cities over this. And this will go further. We're starting very strongly with D.C., and we're going to clean it up real quick, very quickly, as they say.
It just keeps getting worse, because in another unprecedented move, Donald Trump, our authoritarian leader, announced that he is taking over D.C., and as you heard him say, this is going to go further. D.C. is seemingly just the start. In fact, he later on implied that Chicago is next, which isn't surprising given what's happened in L.A., but in terms of what he's doing in D.C., the Washington Post explains, President Donald Trump said Monday that he is putting the district police under federal control, a move expected to last 30 days, and deploying the D.C. National Guard to fight crime. Quote, I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back, Trump told supporters, adding that he is also directing that homeless encampments be cleared. Police data shows a drop in violent crime in D.C. in recent years. But he's never been one to let facts get in the way of his fascist agenda. But what is this going to look like in practice? Well, about 800 National Guard soldiers will be in D.C., and they will have the ability to arrest U.S. citizens. I'll repeat, members of the U.S. military will be able to arrest U.S. citizens at their nation's capital. He is turning the military on the people that they're in theory supposed to be protecting. And there are reports that the homeless will be disproportionately targeted as part of his beautification effort, because according to him, these human beings who were failed by this country with nowhere else to go, they're an eyesore, so they have to be cleansed from this area so it can be pretty. Now, his entire executive order is premised on this idea that crime in D.C. has increased so much that a public emergency declaration is warranted, but that is complete horseshit. Crime in D.C. is down, actually, including violent crime, and MSNBC did a really good job at displaying the actual numbers during his lie-filled fear-mongering press conference.
D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. Is that where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe.
He's full of shit and he knows it. And at this point, I feel like whenever the president says something, you have to automatically assume that he's lying, because statistically speaking, he will most likely be lying. If his mouth is open, there's at least a 50% chance that he's lying, even about the most dumb, mundane, unnecessary bullshit. He just cannot stop lying. And it's ironic that he talked about fake numbers after he just fired the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics because they published real numbers that made him look bad. In reality, he was looking for any excuse to flex his muscle, and he found one excuse after one of Elon Musk's proteges, Big Balls, remember him? He got his ass beat by children during an attempted carjacking, and because of this, Trump is saying, that's my in, that's my opportunity to use the military to take over D.C. So if you're not familiar with that story, NBC News explains, Edward Korstein, also known by his online name Big Balls, and a woman characterized in a police report as his significant other were victims victims of an unarmed attempted carjacking early Sunday. Washington Metropolitan Police on Tuesday announced the arrests of two 15-year-old suspects from Maryland. The report added that police officers saw about 10 juveniles surrounding the car and assaulting Korstein, which prompted the officers to get out of their vehicle and all but two of the juveniles whom police arrested to flee. Police said that in an interview, Korstein said he pushed the woman identified as his significant other into the car and turned to deal with the suspects, who in turn assaulted him. So he proceeded to try to protect his girlfriend, pushed from the car, said, "Babe, don't worry, I've got this." And then he got his ass beat by two 15-year-olds. Damn, that is something that would be very, very unfortunate. I will say that this isn't necessarily deserved. Like, I don't wish violence on anyone, but having said that, sometimes the universe, it kind of gives you back what you put out into the universe. We just got a report recently that up to 14 million people will die because of DOGE's cuts to USAID. 14 million people. People have already died. So, you do something that causes pain and suffering. Sometimes, it comes back to you as well. This is actually a better fate than the fate that he helped facilitate for people living in Sudan, for example, who have no medication or food. So, I'm not saying that like, oh, you deserve this. I can't say that. I am beaming additional thoughts onto the camera so you can pick up on what I'm putting down as I say, deepest sympathies to Big Balls. I feel so sorry for what happened to him. Yeah. Now, you might think, well, maybe carjackings in particular are up, and that's why Trump is using this as an excuse. But actually, no, that's not the case. As this chart from John Harden of the Washington Post illustrates, carjackings are down by 37%, although as you can see, they are still slightly above pre-pandemic levels. But I think it kind of dispels this notion that a national emergency is required. Now, to be fair, Trump isn't blaming this national emergency declaration on carjackings. He's blaming it on the rise of youth crime, specifically in D.C., which has spiked. But the problem is that overall crime, including violent crime, is down. And this seems extremely fucking stupid to say, oh, well, this one specific category of crime is up, therefore we have to take it over entirely. Like, again, he's just looking for a reason to do this, but the logic is completely idiotic. Now, in response to the Big Balls attack, he indicated that he was planning on doing this. He tweeted out, "Crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. Local youths and gang members, some only 14, 15, and 16 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens at the same time knowing that they will be almost immediately released. They are not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. This isn't the first time that he's wanted to treat minors as adults, by the way. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. If this continues, I'm going to exert my powers and federalize this city." And fast forward to today, and that's exactly what he did. And as Lance from the Surfs put it, so a dude named Big Balls getting beat up by two 15-year-olds is going to be their Reichstag fire. I guess so. That's just the country we live in now, right? Trump is using this one example of youth crime as a pretense to take over all of D.C. because Big Balls got his ass beat by kids. Everybody in D.C. has to live under authoritarian rule for the time being, at least for the next 30 days. It's just so absurd, I can't even begin to describe the situation. This is a socioeconomic issue. We're talking about minors here, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. Okay? I don't understand how sending in the military is going to make things better. Are troops supposed to like pull down their pants and spank them or ground them? What the fuck are they supposed to do? Is the presence of U.S. troops in military fatigues really going to make everyone else feel safer from these children? And all of these questions are rhetorical, by the way, because they can't do shit. And Trump doesn't care about the young people in crime or Big Balls. Again, this is all just a pretense to consolidate power and intimidate people. Like, if you actually care about youth crime, studies show that after-school programs significantly reduce youth crime because unsupervised teenagers are more likely to get in trouble. But the question is, why are they unsupervised in the first place? Well, probably because both parents have to work and they can't be with their children. Why? Well, because wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living, which means less family time, which means more poverty, which leads to crime. So if Trump really wanted to reduce youth crime, you invest in these communities, you invest in families. But as you all know, our government and Donald Trump have no interest in doing that at all. You're on your own in this late-stage capitalist hellscape. So in a way, we're getting a glimpse into the future because as civil unrest increases, and it will increase, there are still large protests taking place in Los Angeles. But as more and more people grow desperate and frustrated with this administration, and as living conditions continue to get worse, this is a sneak preview as to how they plan to deal with it, by ruling with a fucking iron fist. They're going to respond to poverty-induced suffering, not by addressing our material conditions, but by beating our asses and cracking skulls. But Trump isn't unique here. Fascist leaders and dying empires of the past have resorted to violence after the bread and circus distractions no longer kept the masses in check. So buckle up, because this isn't going to end well. And again, DC is just the beginning, as he said, because he wants total control. And if he has to take over every single city to get it, he will. So prepare yourselves, because Trump's fascism and military troops being used against you could be coming to your city soon.
Penis and balls.
Vagina.
Penis and balls.
Vagina.
P-word and balls.
Vagina.
P-word and balls.
Vagina.
Ass.
Gum.
Ass.
Gum.
Ass.
Gum.
Vagina.
She stroked my face with the
Vagina.
She stroked my
Penis and balls.